In this video, we'll take a look at some of the highlights of Phoenix 6.0, our biggest release to date. So let's start off looking at any rotation nesting and product scaling. So I'm going to open up a job here, and I have 3 products set up, and they're ready to go for true shape nesting. Now, in previous versions of Phoenix, it also had powerful true shape nesting capabilities, but it could only rotate items at right angles. Starting in Phoenix 6.0, it can do any rotation, and so that means that if you allow it, it'll rotate items at 2 degrees, 27 degrees, whatever it has to really pack things tightly into the layout. And it's going to do that in a really intelligent manner because the algorithm that we've built around this is going to try lots of different ways of packing things together using different rotations. So let's take a look at the new setting here. In the products, I'll select all the products, and there's a new rotation setting right here. Right now it's set to none, and I'm going to change that to any, which will then tell Phoenix that we're allowing it to rotate these items at any angle. And now I'm going to click on the plan tool and start generating results. And the behavior here will be the same as previous releases, where over time you'll get more and more results, and the best results will start coming to the top of the list. So I can see right now it's generating a result here with 2 layouts, and things don't look that okay. Here we go. So I've got a result here with a single sheet, and I can see that it's really packed things tightly into place. So I'm happy with that. Stop this and just double click that and apply it to the job. And now let's go take a look at that layout. So I can see that it's been doing various rotations here to pack things into place. If I select items, probably see some of them. This one's rotated at 90, this one's 72, this one 165. So you're going to start seeing all kinds of different angles because it's really trying to pack things tightly into place. So that's any rotation nesting, and we think there's going to be a lot of benefits, particularly for our wide format customers where you need to do this a lot to really maximize your substrate usage and bring down your costs. The other thing that we've added here that we've run into a lot with mostly wide format customers, but also other customers, digital customers printing to digital devices, is items that need to be scaled. So in previous versions of Phoenix, it worked with PDFs, and whatever size that PDF was, Phoenix interpreted that as the final size. But some customers get files that's not always the case. So now for any product, you can go and scale the width and height. So for example, I can go here and type into the width parameter here. I could type in 500%, and I could do the same for the height, type 500% for that. And once I do that, now this item has been scaled by 500%. You can see you can scale the width and height separately. I could enter a percent value or just the actual exact value I want, so 600 millimeter height, and so you can scale your items like that. You can do each item separately, of course, and this can be automated as well. So if you know the amount of scaling that's needed up front, you can set that in your CSV spreadsheet, or if you're using hot folders or in Focus Switch, then you can set those parameters in there as well. So that's any rotation and product scaling. Now let's take a look at another very big feature we've added, which is the template library and the die design library. So I've got my template library over here, and let's bring up the die design library as well. Here we go, there's the die design library. So what are these? Well, in previous versions of Phoenix, we worked with CAD files a lot, usually for packaging. So for example, if I start a job and drop in my press here, and then I'm going to place a die. So how about I'll do this 9-up die. So here's my die that I need to use. I've already got that. It's a physical die for this, so I need to make sure that my items match up with this. So I bring in that die from a CAD file, and then I can go select my artwork file and then map that in there. Now I'm guaranteed that when I print this, it's going to match the physical die that I have. But working with external files can be cumbersome in a number of ways, and to deal with that problem, we've introduced the template library and the die designs library. So you can now take your CAD files and actually go add them into your template library here. So you can see I've got a 9 up in here. That's actually the same die that I just used, but now it's in my library. I've got another one here as well, an 8 up. So now this process is much simpler. Instead of going to find my CAD file for this, I have it in the library at all times. I can just create a new job, drop in my press, drop in my die. Now the only external file I need to reference is my actual artwork file. Just go and grab that, map that in, and I'll be off to the races. So that's the templates library. There's also a die designs library, because often in packaging and things like wide format as well, you might have, in commercial of course, you'll have shapes and sizes that you reuse all the time, and you might, referencing external CAD file or setting that size every time, it can be cumbersome. So I've got this one up here in my die design library, and now instead of using a CAD file to create this, I can actually, for example, just go here, let's start a new job, and I can create a new product directly from my die design in my library. Now my product is ready to go with the correct shape and all the crease lines and cut lines, etc. And all I have to do is just map my artwork into that, and then I can go and pose it. So that's what the templates library and the die design library are. Now, where these really start to show their benefits is in the automated imposition workflows. So for example, if I'm planning a packaging job, so let's import a CSV with a bunch of different packaging files. Okay, so I've got a bunch of different files here. Here we go. So here's the CSV that's referencing a number of different packaging files. Okay, that's not popping up. Oh, let's just import this. Okay, here we go. Bring in our files. So there we go. So we've got a bunch of different packaging files, and these are all the same shape. They're just different flavors of this box that we need to print, different quantities, all in the same stock. And so we have an existing die for this shape, so of course would like to use that. So now when I go to the Imposition AI panel, which has been renamed from previous releases, it used to be called the Auto Ganging panel, but we've renamed it as it's doing more than just ganging these days. It's really an imposition tool with capabilities for ganging, capabilities to do really intelligent imposition. So I bring up this tool now, and there is a new option here, templates, and I can go and select the templates I want to use, and I can select a profile that says use existing dies, so this will force Phoenix to only use templates in the library. I click run on that, and now I'm going to get results using the templates in the library. So for customers who had to bring in die files every time, now those files are just in your library. You can reference them, and you'll get results where it's referencing those dies off the bat. And if, say, you only want to use a specific one, maybe I only want to use the 8 up, then I can just rerun that. You'll see you'll get results really quickly where it's gone and mapped those items into those dies. I can apply this job and take a look, and of course we can be sure that it's used that die and it's gonna match our physical die. And so this is doing it with the plan tool in Phoenix, but if we have an automated workflow, say through hot folders or something like in Focus Switch, we can do the exact same thing. And so we can just be sending in artwork files. It'll go and find the right die in the library, and we'll get output automatically that's going to match our physical die. Okay, so let's move on to the next highlight of Phoenix 6.0, and that is dimension marks. So there are two ways to add dimension marks in Phoenix 6.0. We can draw them in manually, or we can do create a smart dimension mark. So let's take a look at the manual tool first, which is really advanced. So I'm going to select right here. This is the new dimension mark tool. And then as I move the mouse, you'll see highlights where it's going to snap to edges. So if I want to draw a dimension mark that's going to get all the edges of the items here, I can just click here, click on the next one here, and just keep clicking across. And as I'm going here, I'm drawing my dimension mark. If I'm done, so if I like this, I'll just click that, and now I have a dimension mark which grabbed all of those different edges. I can do the same in the vertical direction. Let's grab the vertical edges here, like this, and I can pull this out to the right or left here, click there, I have a dimension mark for the left edge. You can also grab onto the edges of the sheet like this, or the content margins. It'll snap to all of those different positions like this, or perhaps something maybe more common. I might want to know what my punch height here is and my gripper height, so I can go and grab those and pull that out like this. So very quickly you can add dimension marks like that. Now you might, it's going to try and put the text in a position where you don't have any problems, but sometimes in situations like this you might get overlaps. But this tool is advanced to the point that you can actually go and edit the position of the text here. So I'm going to select this mark, and once I've selected it, let's see here, okay, now I'm actually able to go and grab the text here. So I'm going to move this text over here, and I'll move this one over here. So you can see you can take care of those kind of problems too. And you can go in and edit the positions of marks you've created as well too. Say this mark, for example, say I want to move it up a bit higher. I'll double click on this, and now I can click on the bar and move it up a bit here, and now that changes the position of that. So that's doing drawing manual dimension marks. These can also be used when these are just square guide items, but if you have items such as packages or wide format items where you want to draw dimension marks to different line types, it can do that as well. So let's take a look. Let's open up a carton job here, and now I'm going to go and draw some dimension marks right in the one up here, and I actually want to draw dimension marks with the crease lines here, so I can do that. So let's select this, and so I'm going to grab my first cut line here, then my crease line here, next crease line, next crease line, next crease line, and then my last cut line right here, and then pull that up to the top. So now you can see I've created a dimension mark that's got my cut and all of my crease lines in there. So it's not just limited to the edges of items, you can actually do internal lines in the items as well. So that's the smart dimension mark, or sorry, the manual dimension marks. But there's probably a lot of scenarios where you don't want to actually be manually drawing these each time, and a job like this is probably a good candidate for that. So I'm just going to select all the marks here and delete them so that we can see I've selected a mark that can't be deleted. Okay. Let's just do this manually. Okay, just clean this job up a bit so we can see this. Okay, so now for this job, instead of drawing this manually, we're going to actually create a smart mark, a smart dimension mark. So I'll create a dimension mark here, and I'm going to say it's going to go on to the group, or actually sheet is fine. I'll say a sheet. And now I'm going to say it's going to go to the top. I want it positioned at the top, and I just want it to do the product edges. Now let's include the product centers as well. So that'll be my first one. This is going to be my top dimension mark. And I'm going to create another one, and I'm going to do that on the left edge. And I'm also going to do the product edges and product centers, and I'll call that my left edge mark, left dim. Now how about I'll actually go create a mark set for this. So I'll say I want to select those two. Where are those? Let's see here. I should have two left top dim. There we go, top dim, and then left dim. And now good here. So I'm just going to create a new mark set. I'm going to call this dims, dimension marks. Okay, so now I can just drop this set in, and I'll get both those marks in there. And so you can see now, instead of actually manually drawing this each time, you just get your dimension marks right in there. And I can go control the settings or where the position is going to be here, and make some tweaks to this. But essentially, you can get dimension marks in each job with just by specifying the mark from the library. And of course, that can be used in automation as well. So that's dimension marks. Now let's take a look at the next highlight of Phoenix 6.0, and that's image support. So up until now, Phoenix only worked for artwork files by importing PDF files or Illustrator files that were PDF compatible. But starting with 6.0, it can actually work directly with TIFF files or JPEG files, PNG files, any of the standard image formats. So I've got a job here with a bunch of postcards. These are just TIFF files. They've already been rasterized, or maybe the quality might not be great, but for a lot of customers, this is what they might actually be getting from their customers, and that's good enough. So we'll go here and create a new job, and I'm just going to do import CSV, and this will be exactly the same as it was in other versions. There's no difference as far as Phoenix is concerned. It'll just import that CSV and bring in all the artwork files. Doesn't matter if they're TIFF, PDF. In this case, they're all TIFF. They all come in. I can go and start running gang on this. Okay, we need a default profile. And you start generating results. And then let's just apply something here. And of course, once you've applied your result, then you have all the capabilities you had before in Phoenix. I can go export and impose PDF or a JDF to send over to the RIP and do my Postgres export as well. So that is the image files. Now let's take a look at the last item I want to talk about, and that is die design editing. So we've actually added advanced path editing tools, so you can go edit your die designs and even create them from scratch. So a good example of editing is if we go and open up that that carton job. So say for example you got a die from the customer or from some external source, and you just have to make a quick fix to something in it. You couldn't do that before in Phoenix, but now if I go into the product here, I just actually need to ungroup this die in order to do this, because it won't let me actually edit a die that's part of a template like this. But so now I can go and edit this die, and you can see here now actually I get into my view mode where I can start actually controlling these lines. So you can select each different line type. I could, for example, delete lines and then go draw lines back in. Of course, you've got your line tools, your rect tool, your ellipse tool, but then you've got the much more advanced tools where I can start actually go and draw Bezier paths here. And this is going to be your typical type of Bezier tools. You can do straight segments or actually curves like this as well. And you can go and edit existing paths. So if I go here, I could start adding more nodes to an existing path and moving those nodes around. Or if I need to cut a path, I can do that. And then I'm free to move those nodes around as well. You can take nodes and convert them from straight lines to actual curves. All of your standard tools to really go and fully edit this. And for each item you're creating here, of course, you can select what type it is. So these are cut, but I could change them to any of the line types that I have in my system. So probably this is not what I'm going to want to do to this box, so I'll just cancel out of this and get back to where I was before, and now there aren't any changes. So that's one scenario. Another scenario is where you don't have a die and you actually need to go and draw it in. So a really simple example of this is I have this image here that I need to print. So I'm going to bring in this file, and I could go and impose it just like this. Let's take a look at that. Let's run that, and here's what I'll get. So I get a layout like this where this is imposed across the sheet. And that's pretty good, but I want to save substrate, and I know that a lot of this is just wasted space. So I'm going to go in here and actually edit my die design. I'll start off by just deleting the original one here, which is just the bounding rect of the image. So I'll just delete that. And now I'm going to go and use my pen tool, and I'll just do a fairly quick job here, but just start tracing out the path. So let's do this. Just start tracing out this path so we can get something much closer to what to the final result we want, and save some substrate with the nesting. Okay, getting there. Just go all the way around this item like this. There we go. And almost completed here. Okay, so here we go. And now I have a completed path. So, and that is, let's just double check. Yep, that is a cut path. So now I'll just click done on that. Ready to go here. Let's just set a contour bleed so I should get masking here as well. And now can go back to my layout. I'm going to rerun this, and there we go. You can see you start getting much tighter result. And I don't think this is using any rotation nesting by the looks of it. So we could change that too. Let's go and say the rotation, it's orthogonal. We can even say it's any, and rerun with that. And we might be able to get something even tighter. Looks the same right now. That is pretty tight, but if I leave it for longer, we might even find tighter results. So that concludes the highlights of Phoenix 6.0. I hope you like it.